Everybody, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be discussing consumer math, specifically Abeka 2nd edition, and some vintage math so that you can decide for yourself, is there a difference? Is there not? And if there is, maybe start putting some ideas into your head on how you are going to make some changes in your family's homeschool. So here is consumer math, 2nd edition. I got it used at St. Vinny's along with the full set for $200, or not 200, oh my gosh, no, $2.50 at most. At most. And I'm going to be comparing that to, if you've not seen these before, this is a math called Living Arithmetic. This is vintage. This is from the 1940s. I have the full set. So I have 6, this is 7, and this is 8. And 7 comes in a literally 80-year-old dust jacket. Is that not the coolest thing that you have ever seen? I love it. Victory Gardens. Victory gardening is the name of my game. I love it. That's my hobby. I have stuff all around my house about victory gardens. Love it. I collect vintage seeds and seed packets, and I enjoy hunting for those really rare seeds that nobody's ever heard of and varieties that nobody's seen in 150 years. I have that stuff. That's my jazz. So back to this. Consumer math. Consumer math is two different camps. You either give it, now these are generalizations, you either give it to your kid because, quote unquote, the stereotype is your kid wasn't able to cut the mustard and has been struggling in algebra and geometry, and you still need math credits, so you give them consumer math. Abeka, that's the gold star. Or you're in the camp of, my child doesn't need any lower maths because they're going to have Calculus 500 before they graduate high school, so obviously they know all that stuff. And then there's all of us in between, somewhere floating around in space. Now, what does consumer math do? It teaches you how to do your taxes, how to budget your time, budget your money, budget your planned expenses for the future. You have savings accounts, interest rates. Let's see, there's payroll taxes, there's self-employment, there's financing, there's traveling by plane, clothing, there's homeowners insurance, there's furniture repair costs, buying food. They even have church activities in here, which I can say the vintage math does not talk about distances for driving to and from church, although reading this, solving the distance formula, solving an equation for an unknown variable, and biblical measures. The vintage math does go into that in several books. So you have compound interest, deposits and savings, life insurance, buying stocks and bonds, and then you've got dividends. So that's what you get in a nutshell with this one. With these lovely, beautiful books, these very loved antique books, I went through everything. I went through these 3 books, and mainly we can take this one aside. Just in these 2 books, 7 and 8, but a little bit in 6. It's easier to say what you're not getting in these vintage books than it is to say what you are. So what are you not getting in these 1940s books? Social Security tax. Again, you'll find that in here. Modern banking documents. Not in here, but it's in there. And how to read them, obviously. But what you do get in here that is not in the consumer math is food rations. And depending on how everything works out in our future, this is March 2026, we might be heading back to food rations. So you might want to get familiar with that. That's it. That's it. Social Security and what did I say? Modern banking documents. Everything else is found in these. Everything else. I went side by side. I did have pages marked, but my stickies fell out, and I don't want to put the actual sticky on my vintage pages because these pages tear very easily, as I have recently discovered. So I started, but I didn't want to damage my books. So I'll just flip through these real quick and just show you where these things are at. You can see it's sticking right now. Railroad fare. So it discusses in there how to travel and figure all that stuff out. Making out sales slips. I'm going to skip through a big chunk. Everyday problems for clothing. how to make your own clothes, how much yardage you're going to need for making your own clothes, for your own curtains, for anything that you need around the house. That's how they work with fractions in living arithmetic, how you're going to use those fractions in everyday life, including yardsticks and rulers. Christmas package buying, buying in bulk for Christmas. Let's see here. Shopping accounts, starting a savings account, and there's several pages that go into here about savings accounts, and I just had a sticky drop out. Library records. Allowance. We have a whole section on trading and bartering. Probably going to need that again soon. Yay. Always in war. Gotta love it. Money tolerance. Oh, let's see here. So this goes into, this is a whole section that talks about farming. So what you're going to need, how to calculate your acreage, your square footage, manure costs, fertilizer costs, poultry farm expenses, the graphs to go along with it, cubic yards, selling wood to burn. So if you have a wood burning fire pit or a wood stove in your house, cubic yards, cubic feet. Gardening. All the math you need to start building your gardens with your fencing, your plots, your seeds, all of that, which also is essentially pre-calculus. Arithmetic and music. That's fun to know. Your fractions for your scales, if you didn't know that, which I was a 30-something-year-old before I learned that. Knots. If you're into handicrafts and you do knot tying, this has a whole section about knots and numbers and why you need certain numbers of knots in certain types of lengths to support X number pounds of weight. And then you've got English money, and it talks about, there is a section in here that goes into math from 100 years ago, and I've seen that in the level 7 and level 8 books too. Level 7, again, just because it's so cute. Let's see, I'm not lying, grade 7. So let's just do a general flip through. Raising farm animals. Lowest common denominator, multiplying with fractions, division with fractions, problems with fractions. Cavalry contests, so your military, horse jumping, and other things. Your percents, decimals, increase, decrease. The county fair, how to tabulate for all of that. An egg selling business. Interest rates, and how to find them, and how to do variable in your rates. More interest, discounts, and commission. Borrowing money for college, starting a business. Your startup costs. Interest on a 60-day scale. You've got bar graphs, line graphs, postal savings bank accounts, weather records, using oil for power, how all of that is calculated, cattle drive, danger time in driving in a car, things that we just take for granted, we don't think about, although we probably should. Girls Club and budgets, family budgets, Bob's budget, buying in quantity, as well as buying quality, that's covered in here. Grocery store sales, installment buying, using arithmetic in business. This is a whole section of how you use arithmetic in small business, which is going to give you a huge percentage of your consumer math book right there. We have expenses, margins, going into business together, profit, loss, loss margins, selling prices, price margins, turnover, profit, inventory. There's a whole section I skipped. What to do with money, how to invest your money, building a fish pond, stocking up your pantry, discounts, successive discounts, which would be like coupon stacking, if you will, taking your coupons in on a sale, sales slips, account slips, money and banking. This whole section is just about money and banking and finances, commercial banking, checks and stubs. Now ours don't look the same anymore, but it's still the same type of information. How banks make money work for them. Safe deposit vaults, promissory notes, United States war savings bonds and stamps. We don't have those anymore, but I mean, maybe we really do. They just shuffle it in with other stuff. I don't trust our government, so one of those people. Money orders, sending money, traveler's checks. You can still get traveler's checks. I've used them in the last 10 years. Measuring numbers, measuring long ago. So this whole section is about how they would have built the pyramids, the numbers and math that they would have needed to move all those blocks by hand. Measuring areas for farming, measuring capacity, measuring weights, measuring angles. Somewhere I have one of these still. It's my mother-in-law's. Planning a trip, a voyage. This is an expedition to the South Pole, so you're going through all the numbers on that. Reading gauges. Measuring food values. The quilting party, the material you're going to need to calculate or how much square footage or square yardage you're going to need for your quilts. Rulers and compasses, areas of triangle, circumference, farm problems. So all the math measures that you'll need for farm. How travel affects people is this next section. Traveling with a trailer, so it's an automobile travel trailer, camper, the gas, the mileage, how you figure all that out. The prices for tolls, so the highway travel, the campgrounds that you would keep your travel trailer at, traveling to South America by cruise ship. We still do cruise ships. That's how they calculate all that stuff out. That's grade 7. Where's grade 8? Okay, that's a lot. Mind you, consumer math, 10th to 12th grade. 10th grade is if you've got a spunky kid who's good with numbers. 12th grade, if you need something to fit in or you have a child that's struggling. That's just mind-blowing. Mind-blowing. Oh, yes, I made a little note to myself. Grade 8, compound interest. You get lots of compound interest in this book. So you go back through multiplication, division review, fractions. You are working with percents and various types of problems with percents. Ratios, mean, median, mode, graphs, ratio graphs. Keeping a city supplied with fruit, how much that's going to take to feed your local supply or your local town and neighborhood. The vegetable supply, how much they're going to need to supply their neighborhoods. Raising wheat for food, how much do you need? How much space? How much seed? It's all stuff that we use today. Chapter 3, insurance and investments. That's where you're going to get all of that stuff. Fire insurance, automobile insurance, life insurance, providing for future needs, problems with life insurance, interest on savings account, interest on savings in banks, compound interest tables, real estate investing, building and loan associations, real estate mortgages, interest on installment buying, which can also include your credit cards, stocks, bonds, goes into the information on that, interest on bonds, providing for hospital care. It's called hospital insurance back then instead of medical insurance. Providing for old age retirement. insurance and investment problems to practice. How a pioneer trading post became a city in 100 years. So this is going to take you through all of the math on how cities are built and how they change. Growth in population, railway transportation, faster ways to travel, schools from back then to current 1940s, postal service information and how to calculate for the distance and the time. Homing pigeons, that's funny. Sending messages, what does that say? Sending messages by telephone. Well, that's just fun. Homeland values increase. If you own your house, well, that's a good thing to know. So you're not checking Zillow. You can actually do that yourself. Geometry. I have a whole section in geometry, 8th grade. Taxes. Farm school tax, or that's farmer school tax. Tax rates in a city. What tax money buys. Local, state, and federal taxes. It doesn't say that they're all pirates, but it should. They're all vampires. Expenses of a state government. How states get their tax money. Sales tax. Problems on state and local tax. Problems on state and local tax expanded. How money works. Why should gold and silver become the chief money metals? Well, why did they take us off gold standard? That'd be a good one to know. But yes, it goes into that. Income tax, the Internal Revenue System, aka the vampires. Collecting customs duties. Who's paying the taxes? How to raise money. The lumber industry. Ways to measure temperatures. Averages and medians. Frequency tables. Water supply. The chemicals that they need to clean the water supply. Solid figures. And when it goes into your solid figures, it always relates it to something in real world concepts. So you have cylinders, and it goes into calculating how much grain you can fill a silo with. Tents for your prisms and cones. Pyramids. Did I say prisms? I think I did. So, oh, there's some handwriting in here. Goes into algebraic equations, ratios and proportions, square roots of money, collecting taxes, wow, negatives and negative numbers, positive numbers, negative and positive numbers for algebra, planning a model community. So this goes into how new communities and neighborhoods are built. All the square footage, calculating for that. Planning for new schools, new transportation, new water systems, swimming pool, and the community. Practicing your percentages as it relates to those. More use of numbers, license plates, and how they tabulate those things. The decimal system in libraries, although many libraries are starting to fade that out, unfortunately. Modern trains, how fast they go. The people, the weight, airplanes. See again, math 100 years ago. These upper books have all of that. What is arithmetic? And it explains exactly what arithmetic is. That is what arithmetic used to be taught as, versus the stuff that is put in modern day math. Now you can see, looking at all of these books, get out my little handy dandy things here, and this. Now you can see what we've lost, maybe we've gained, I think we've lost. And you can see just, I hate the word fluff. I do, because it's subjective, it's relative, but not every program, not every math program is fluff, but pretty much every math program has fluff. Even the Simply Charlotte Mason. Like I said, here's Simply Charlotte Mason, books 1 and 2. Here's Ray's Arithmetic. Ray's Arithmetic. Everything you need in here is in these 2 books and part of book 3 for Simply Charlotte Mason. And you would think with all that extra space that it takes up, we would be that much further ahead than the children from 100 to 200 years ago. And it's the inverse. They were that much further ahead than we are, than our children are. So this gives you something to consider, something to look at. If you have questions about this vintage math set, you want to see it compared to something else, you want me to explain anything else to you, let me know down below in the comments. Like and subscribe. I hope you made it all the way to the end. And if you did, thank you for your patience. And I hope you have a wonderful sunny day.